on their behalf. And it's $500,000 per collateral, so per property that is damaged. Some of the requirements for this relief grant include, again, much like our peril insurance claim, you must demonstrate that the property has been truly damaged from the hurricane. And so we want to see photographs, again, and estimates of repairs that have been received. And finally, I want to touch on the moratorium that the NHT is providing to our mortgagers at this time. So in the 7 most affected parishes, and that belt stretches from Manchester all the way around to St. Anne, once you are a mortgager in that parish, the NHT is giving you a 6-month break in those mortgage payments. Usually, a moratorium just covers the principal, and things like interest and insurance will continue to accrue. The NHT this time around is putting a break on all components of the mortgage. So principal, interest, life insurance, and peril insurance. So no payments for all our mortgagors between November 1 and April next year. So first mortgage payment will be due May 1. And I'll dare say, if May 1 comes and you're still not yet ready or in a position to start making those payments, we will extend that moratorium where necessary. For the individuals who are homeowners in other parishes, the other 7 parishes, if you too have had damage as a result of the hurricane, we are also providing moratorium. Those, though, are on a case-by-case basis. So individuals may put in an application to the NHT. You can visit our website. We've curated a space there, nht.gov.jm/recover, where you can find all the application forms. You can find the checklist of documents required. And we also have some frequently asked questions there as well that will support you in making your application. Thank you.
There is applause in the room, and they don't like to applaud in this room. But I think based on the DBJ presentation and the NHT presentation, we need to applaud. And for me, I'd like to note that both DBJ and NHT fall under the Prime Minister's portfolios. And so he has been working with both of these entities to get to some solutions that Jamaicans can feel good about. And I think everybody's going to feel good when you hear of the facilities, the billions of dollars that are being made available to our businesses that need to get back up on their feet. And when you hear the moratorium, if you're in certain parishes, you don't have to pay your mortgage because NHT is going to be putting in place this moratorium. In addition to that, there are the grants. There is the loan facility. And remember, the Prime Minister keeps talking about resilience. And so if you want to make your home more resilient and you're an NHT contributor, you have a facility now where you can get a loan at 2%. That's unheard of. That's basically 0%, given where inflation is. And so please take advantage of this. Please tell everybody, all those who are saying nothing's happening. That's not true. There's a lot of work happening, but the work had to be done in a very systematic way because it had to pass scrutiny. Those 2,500 homes that are coming in, a lot of work had to be done to identify who was best in the market. There are many players who came forward and said, we could provide, but NHT had to do the work to verify that these were going to be top quality solutions that Jamaicans would want. And you hear 400 square feet, and those are going to have the 2 bedrooms and the bathroom and the kitchen. But knowing our Jamaicans, Dwayne, you spoke it into being, they'll become 4,000 square feet very, very shortly. And we know Jamaicans like to build. And so these are great opportunities. And we now open up to questions from the media. Antoinette, who do we have first? Is it? Okay, good. Go ahead. Go ahead. Good morning.
So,
Let me try to take notes.
all right. So, first of all, I understand how busy the Prime Minister is. Clearly, he can't visit everywhere, but he has visited some areas. Can you explain why it took the PM 2 weeks to visit the worst affected communities in eastern Westmoreland, and then seemingly only because a bunch of Caribbean prime ministers were visiting? Second question, Commander Gale speaking at the PAAC last week when asked about relief work and how MPs didn't know when relief teams would be visiting their constituencies, explained the process and said what happens is that they contact the parish disaster coordinators before going in. Can you explain why relief teams wouldn't be notifying, not just notifying the relevant MPs, but also having them as an integral part of their relief team? And why is the relief effort seemingly so centralized and not community-based? 3, opposition leaders said yesterday at a presser that the opposition hasn't been invited to sit on any committees dealing with the relief work. Can you say if this is so? If it's not true, can you say what committees they've been invited to be on? And if it is true, why is it that that is the case? And fourthly, at this point, it seems clear the government doesn't have any intention of convening an independent oversight committee, despite your previous assurances at previous press briefings. Can you say why that is? And for clarity, the real-time audit being done by the Auditor General, very, very important, but can't be a substitute for that. Mm-hmm. And in relation to your own portfolio, Minister, obviously very important to get the schools back, but we've been getting complaints that some residents, especially in Westmoreland, feel they're being pressured. Got a report yesterday that teachers have been visiting and pressuring people to leave, and they feel when they don't feel they have somewhere safe to go to. Yeah. I'll stop there.
All right, thank you very much. That East Westmoreland question was the same exact question I got in the Senate on Friday by one of the opposition members. They said the same thing. Why didn't the Prime Minister go to East Westmoreland? Why it took him so long to go there? And I had to show in the Senate a video of the Prime Minister in Westmoreland 48 hours after the hurricane. So I'll do that one, and I know Minister Mackenzie is going to take some other ones. The opposition being on any committee, just noting that the Disaster Risk Council has the opposition on that. That is one. In terms of the new initiatives, I have said time and again that Cabinet is looking at using the national partnership as an oversight body. We've not finalized anything yet, but that's what we've been looking at. And the National Partnership Council has the opposition on it. We have 2 representatives from the opposition. There is Senator Lambert Brown, and there is also Anthony Hilton on that committee that also has the church and the private sector on there, and academia and other trade unions are also there. So that is what we are looking at, and I will confirm once we have a final submission in Cabinet on the disaster, on the new committee, NARA, and how that committee will be overseen. Once that is done, I will come back here and give you the final decision that has been taken. But no final decision has been taken, and we believe very much in the oversight element, that it has to go outside of government. I think the others were for you, Minister Mackenzie.
Yeah, just first of all, I think you answered the question about the...
Yes. Yeah, so I'm going to something else. Okay.
Well, in relation to the question of the Prime Minister taking 2 weeks to visit the areas, the Prime Minister did yesterday explain that Jamaica don't have the luxury of a lot of helicopters. The Prime Minister did, within less than 48 hours, visited all the parishes that were affected. So the Prime Minister did, in fact, visited all the parishes that were affected within the first 48 hours, but a more extensive tour was done in Westmoreland because Westmoreland was the area that the hurricane entered the island. And what the Prime Minister did by taking the team of CARICOM leaders was something good, because the Prime Minister could have gone to St. Elizabeth, he could have gone to Hanover, but we went to Westmoreland. And no one should try to put anything, any motive at all whatsoever with where the Prime Minister have visited. Okay, the Prime Minister have visited all of the affected areas. In regards to the opposition's claim, the committee that was established is a subcommittee of cabinet. So you have to be a member of the of cabinet to sit on that subcommittee. So this argument about not sitting on relief committees, the minister, my colleague have just outlined that based on the structure of the National Disaster Response Committee, the Prime Minister is the chairman, I am the deputy chairman, the leader of the opposition is a member of that committee. We do have meetings, and I recall having several meetings during burial that we invited the opposition spokesperson on local government. I don't want the impression to be given that the government is bypassing the opposition. There's a committee that was established in Parliament. The opposition refused to sit on that committee. The Prime Minister outlined the steps that we are taking to have an inclusive Jamaica in the process. We're just getting out of the hurricane. It is going to take some time to put the structures in place. And I would urge the media and other Jamaicans to respect the fact that the government has been working and things will come around. Everything can happen on the same day.
All right, in terms of schools, that is a concern, obviously, in terms of them being used as shelters. But we obviously have to always be on the side of compassion. There are people who don't have anywhere to be. I don't think anyone will wake up and say, I want to be in a shelter. And so we understand that. And so the last week when the Prime Minister was here, he said that he had asked that the shelters be decommissioned. But that has to be done while we find alternative spaces for those individuals. So once Minister Mackenzie and Minister Purnell Charles say that they have a new facility for those individuals, they will be moved. And so as a Ministry of Education, obviously we are usually saying to them, remember you need to do this, you have to move very quickly because you want to get schools back. But we understand that there are people that need to still be facilitated in those shelters, and so we're continuing to maintain that. I think those were all the questions, Antoinette. Next one.
Good morning. Yep.
The question as to why the relief teams aren't engaging with the MPs was answered.
Oh, okay. Commando? Relief teams, MPs, do you have a standard around the relief teams engaging? Okay, so he's dealing with the parish teams.
The system that exists does not allow the ADPEM to interact with the political directorate. In every parish, there's a parish development committee which is chaired by the mayors of each parish. The parish disaster coordinators work closely with the ADPEM, and everything that is done is filtered through the parish development committee. We are all members of parliament. In every parish is a part of those committees. And the ADPEM should not be interacting with the political directorate so anybody can accuse the organization of being political. So the organization deals directly with the structure that exists, and that is what has been done for years, and we will continue to do so.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Minister Mackenzie.
Testing. There we Good morning, everyone.
Good morning and welcome back.
Nationwide news here. Question to Minister Vaz. Can you give any updates on the resumption of the rural school bus program, specifically in Hanover? We know one of the MPs in Hanover, the Western Hanover's MP, was asking for a resumption of this service.
Is that the school bus program that was opposed? Same one? Okay. All right, just checking.
So that question was raised to me in Parliament yesterday by the Member of Parliament for Hanover, for which I pass it on, and I received a response this morning to indicate that the Hanover school bus has been reactivated. It operated yesterday and it operated this morning. So I'll be passing that information on to the Member of Parliament. I have asked them to give me exactly how many school buses were rolled out in Hanover this morning, and I'm awaiting that answer. I'm just checking to see whether it has come in as yet. But to say that the school buses are operating in all parishes where schools are open and road access is available. The only places that are not is the areas that schools are still being used as shelters, and road access for the size buses make it unsafe to travel.
And an update on the fares for the students.
Suspended until December.
So 0.
So we had originally indicated that the fare structure would start November 1st. Hurricane hit October the 28th, and so we have moved that forward to December. We'll reassess it in January, but obviously it's not only the worst affected parishes that were affected. The entire country has been affected, and of course people's lives and livelihoods have been affected in different ways, but in education, as you would know, is very important, and therefore we have to facilitate and accommodate the children to be able to continue to go to school even in times of adversity. Hanover is rolling.
Thank you, Minister. Oh, there's more.
My second question would be to Commander Gale. In terms of the communities that were marooned, I know we've received an update on how they are now in terms of the status, but in terms of the people that are in those communities, now that they are no longer cut off as they once were, how is the recovery efforts going on in those places?
Our recovery efforts are ongoing right across all sectors. In terms of all communities, there's no special treatment towards those particular communities. The communities which remain flooded, there is some work ongoing from the Jamaica Fire Brigade and the JDF teams to treat with the water situations there, and in terms of the other environmental matters pertinent to the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
And in terms of the communities like Content or places in Hanover that have rising water levels, what's the response like there?
Well, there's nothing we can physically do about the rising waters. What is occurring now, I can tell you, is that right across all which are flooded, the waters have been gradually receding. So we're watching that as it goes down. But in terms of vector control mechanisms, those are being put in place in those communities.
All right, thank you. All right.
Good morning, everyone. Zara Burton, 18 Degrees North. There were 8 presenters, so I do have questions for 4 of the presenters. The first set of batch of questions is for ODPIM, Commander Gale. You mentioned that there were 16 people missing. I want to understand, I brought this up the last time, but why it is that ever so often we get a JCF message on Twitter about somebody missing, and yet we can't get a list of missing in this instance. 2, is it 360,000 people affected like you've said in the past, or is it 600-something thousand people affected in the past on the website of ODPIM right now that need aid? And the Prime Minister had said 900,000. So I wanted to clarify some of those figures in terms of how many people are we trying to reach systematically for aid distribution. Also, are you delivering aid on the weekends? And then 4 for you. How much has been deposited in the ODPEM accounts now? How much has been spent on aid? How much are you in control of as the head of ODPEM? Who controls the amount of funds that has been deposited in ODPEM? The second set of questions goes to Minister Vaz. Has
Can I attempt to answer the others first?
Oh.
So,
No. Can we just have all of them? Because remember, the ministers have to go to cabinet. So let's take all of them and then we'll give you one set of answers.
Okay, Minister Vaz. You mentioned that JPS is saying 300 additional linesmen would cost $75 million each month. I just did some math. 470 linesmen, $75 million. That's US $159,574 per linesman, $25.5 million. If it's 300 linesmen, that's $250,000 US per lineman, $40 million per month. I want to understand if they had a schedule to come back online in April, May, prior to needing this cash. How is it that if they would have had maybe, I'm just assuming, maybe everything in place in terms of infrastructure needed to come back online for that time, how is it that 300 linemen additional is costing this much money? So just clarification on that. 2, there is an NWC situation where we've been dependent on JPS power to power water supply. And the Minister of Overseeing NWC recently said that in terms of, to a question of a journalist, the NWC, yes, they're exploring renewable energy in some instances, but there is a concern that if NWC was to be powered by renewable energy completely, it would hurt JPS's bottom line, which would mean higher bills for us as customers. My question is, in the negotiations with JPS, in order to renew their license, have you encountered or engaged them in any conversation about getting NWC, factoring NWC as not a customer anymore, and how they could plan for that so that people in disasters can continue to get water regardless of the power situation? And obviously that may have an impact on bills. I want to know if that has been assessed at this point. And lastly, on this $150 million investment that the government of Jamaica is making in JPS's restructuring, I get it, it's an investment in the economy. I just want to know, has there been a factoring done of cost to us as JPS customers in terms of light? How will that affect us? The next batch of questions, Mr. Burbick. Cost of the 2,500 containers, cost of the overall modular units, okay. I think the public calls them containers, but I will say with your language, modular units.
Can we get to the question?
Cost, I asked about the cost of the 2,500, the overall cost to the consumer who is about to purchase this when it comes in. Those were not mentioned, wondering about those figures. And then last batch of questions for you, Minister, is you had mentioned a spreadsheet of all the aid that's been received, and at some point it would be made available. I wanted to get a sense that overall spreadsheet now, because that $540 million that ODPEM had mentioned a couple weeks ago as having been deposited in ODPEM doesn't seem to reflect like the US $22 million that we got from the United States, or we were supposed to get from the United States in aid, because obviously that would be in the billions. And so I'm just wondering if you are going to be giving us the spreadsheet of all the aid that we've received from different aid agencies and also from different governments around the world.
All right, in terms of the aid one, I'll take that one very quickly. Remember that much of the aid that's committed by many of our multilaterals is not cash, it is in kind. And so all of that is recorded by ODPEM. ODPEM has their system of monitoring all of that, and at the appropriate time, ODPEM will share that. So ODPEM, since you're here, I'll let you take the questions on the missing people and some of the aid questions that were there.
So I'll start with the matter of the weekend. We do deliver on weekends. We deliver every day through our system. In terms of the cumulative sums that have been deposited into ODPEM accounts, I had mentioned earlier $1.68 million US, and just about 635 million Jamaican dollars, and that's across all accounts. The procurement plan for these accounts is now being developed. We're doing that against the needs list. We're also looking at what persons are contributing otherwise in terms of what's on the ground, in terms of physical assets, and to move those. But we have been able to utilize from some other accounts, primarily the NDF, to treat with initial procurement of food items and water that has gone out. Your question concerning
so let's just clarify. None of the money that has been received has been spent as yet. So we've been using our government funds. Some additional funds were approved by Cabinet for ODPEM to use. Our donors have also provided food and so on. So none of that money has been spent. They're now going to figure out how to spend it.
Concerning the missing persons, I believe. I don't have the figure with me. I can give you at a later time.
He'll give you those info after.
Concerning the missing persons, I believe the same with the matter concerning the persons who are deceased. The police and the families are treating with those names as per their own protocols. So we will not be publishing these names. No.
All right. So let's see. There was a question about the additional linesmen and NWC Water. I think it's really on the linesmen, Minister Vaz. Really what it was, they were going to need the money irrespective of whether or not it was fast forwarded. What we've done is to say we need it fast forwarded, and we are giving you the money to fast forward it. But Minister Vaz, you can answer.
So let me clarify. When you say 300 linesmen, the linesmen come with equipment and they come with materials. So when 300 linesmen come to Jamaica to assist the 170, they'll be coming with barges full of equipment, very expensive equipment that has to be rented, to make sure that they would be able to carry out the tasks that they have been mandated to do in the time that they have been made to do. So bottom line is, if you get 300 linesmen, they will need to rotate those linesmen, because they would only work those linesmen for 18 hours a day for 30 days. So you'd have to bring in a new set of linesmen for the second 30 days, or you'd be using burnt-out linesmen who are working at the minimum efficiency because, obviously, of the stress of the job that they are doing. So it is not 300 linesmen divided into 150 million US dollars. There's a lot more. What I can say, as I said yesterday in Parliament, once the arrangements have been finalized, it will be scrutinized to make sure that we are getting value for money, and we will also monitor the schedule that has been agreed on in terms of the restoration period and the areas. All of that will be made public, including the final loan arrangement documents and the terms and conditions of that. What we don't have is time. People want light.
All right, we have,
We are giving a loan, and that loan is fully secured with any situation that may arise, whether or not they get a new license or they don't get a new license. If they get a new license, which is 2 years is the expiry, they will be able to refinance themselves and pay us back the $150 million. If they don't, we are obligated to buy the assets of JPS, which means that our $150 million will come off of the table first. The shares will be our backup. In case of any eventuality, we would have preferred shares in JPS. So essentially, we would have control not only of our licensing destiny, which is the most important to me, but also the fact that at the end of the day, the $150 is a loan to the JPS. Instead of them having to borrow from somewhere else or somebody else, which would take a much longer time, probably at a much higher interest rate. We are bridging that gap so that we can restore 2 to 3 months earlier. I just don't understand what's so difficult to understand and comprehend about a straightforward, smart, simple, compassionate, and responsible government action.
All right. All right. In relation to the bills,
The question was asked yesterday in relation to the impact of the hurricane. The 3 alternative energy sources that we use, Clarendon, Old Harbor, and Montego Bay, one was out of commission for 2 days and one was out, and two are out for 3 days. So the impact of the change of fuel source would be minimal in relation to that fallout. And in relation to the loan, the JPS has to borrow money any which way. So this new money that they are borrowing from the government would probably be beneficiary to the customers based on the interest rates that will be negotiated, based on the fact that we are very mindful of the fact that any higher interest rates than normal interest rates would have an impact, obviously, with a pass-through to the customers. So the government and the Ministry of Finance, I'm sure, will take that into consideration and work out the best interest rate possible to minimize any impact on the customers and people of Jamaica.
all right.
Unfortunately for me, I'm not the line minister as yet for NWC, but I think in due course Minister Samuel will be here, and I know that the Prime Minister made mention in one of his speeches about using alternative sources to make sure that in hurricanes we were not dependent on JPS. And as a result of Beryl, I know that there's some main water supplies that have already gotten generators, and I know that there's a lot more that are in procurement to make sure that water can be in the pipes in the case of any disaster or catastrophe.
All right, I'm getting an SOS from Cabinet because we are an hour and 19 minutes late. Dwayne Burbick, you have to answer a question on the modular units. The teams are here to take your question. DBJ and NHT and others are here. The UN team is here. So if anybody has any additional questions, you can definitely get them answered.
Thank you, Minister. I'll just quickly point out that we are currently in the procurement process, so we do not have finalized numbers as yet, and that's procurement. We are currently assessing over 40 proposals for the modular units, and we also have to do a procurement exercise for the infrastructure works as well. So the final cost to the customer will include both components, so we do not want to prejudice that exercise at this stage by releasing our estimates that we are working with. Suffice to say, if affordability is a question, the customer would be able to benefit from the NHT's grants and subsidies that are made available in the regular course of acquiring a mortgage.
All right, thank you very much, Dwayne. I have to leave. I mean, is it one quick one? Okay, sure. I did. On aid, I did. That was the first one I answered.
Who was complaining of the shelter.
Okay.
Sorry, let me just repeat that. Since you answered me, I got communication
Sure.
from the residents in the shelter. It is a content primary school, which I think you mentioned is the one that isn't open yet. And what they said was that they were told to be in a particular part of the school, but that part was damaged. And they're knowing, I think it sounds to me like it's the admin block from what I've heard, and they're being told they have to leave, they're in distress, they have nowhere to go.
Well,
Can you comment on what you would say to the residents, because they're asking?
Well, what we have said is that we have to treat everybody as a human being. We have to treat them the way we'd want to be treated. If I were homeless, I would want to know that people would be accommodating to me. And we have said that we have to take care of those who are in the shelters. We cannot move them out until we have another facility. And that is what Minister Mackenzie and Minister Charles have been asked to do. Once there is an agreement in terms of where they will go, then they can decommission the school. But we can't decommission a school until those individuals who are there have somewhere to go. And that is the policy of the government, and the ministry will intervene too. The PS is here. She will be intervening with that school just to make sure that that is very much understood.
And that the residents aren't pressured because they feel distressed.
Yeah, and I can understand that would be very distressing, and we don't want to do that because so many people have lost everything. They've lost everything. And we have to be very caring about that, and preserving their dignity is at the center of everything. And so that should never happen, and we're going to ensure that it does not continue. All right, and so this has been a long meeting, and I've been abandoned by all the ministers, but it was very important because I think it does show that there's a lot of work that's happening. Government is more than the ministers. There are many agencies with very capable people who are working really hard to assist those who need the assistance, and so it is coming. Housing is coming. We have small business grants and loans for those who need it. And there are going to be many more announcements that will be made. I make sure that the announcements are real. Cabinet needs to have approved them before they come here because I'm not into the pie in the sky thing. And so I'm very happy that today we had some very concrete things that are on their way for those who've been so devastatingly affected by Hurricane Melissa. And so as we close, as we always do, we continue to pray for all of those who have been affected, and we continue to pray that God will bless this wonderful country we call Jamaica. Thank you all.